Oh, hi everyone. Today we're going to learn how to play Cthulhu Realms. It's very similar to Star Realms, so if you have not seen that tutorial, please click on the eye in the corner. Just like Star Realms, this has a guided tutorial, and we're going to let that do most of the work, and I'll chime in with my thoughts as we go.
Welcome to Cthulhu Realms. The object of the game is to drive your opponent insane. You do this by playing cards from your hand and activating abilities. This card generates 1 conjuring power. You use conjuring power to acquire cards from the center row to improve your deck. This card generates 1 sanity loss. You use sanity loss to destroy locations and damage your opponent. The object of the game is to reduce your opponent's sanity to 0. Acquiring cards from the center row makes your deck stronger. There are 5 cards in the center row at all times. When a player acquires a card, it goes to their discard pile, and the top card of the general deck is placed in the center row. The top card of the general deck is always visible.
This is a slight wrinkle to Star Realms. In Star Realms, you have the same general setup with 2 different types of resources, damage and currency. In Cthulhu Realms, you also have damage in the form of sanity loss and currency in the form of conjuring power, but it's neat that you can see the top card at all times and kind of plan your turn better.
Initiates are always available too. There's no limit to these. They're everywhere. When you run out of cards, you reshuffle your discard pile into your deck. You'll cycle through your deck several times throughout your game. Once you acquire a card from the center row, it's yours, and you don't have to pay anything to play it. At the end of your turn, you discard any cards you haven't played from your hand and all artifacts and entities you played this turn. You then draw 5 cards. If you can't draw 5 cards, you draw all the cards in your deck, reshuffle your discard pile into your deck, and then draw until you have 5. Let's take a look at some card abilities. This card generates +2 conjuring power. This card also has a prerequisite ability. You can't use an ability unless you meet the prerequisites. This ability requires you to have another yellow card in play. If you meet this requirement, this ability lets you draw a card. Prerequisites always appear at the top of the ability symbol. Some abilities have more than 1 prerequisite. This ability requires you to abjure the card in order to gain the effect. Abjuring a card removes it from the game.
Prerequisites in Cthulhu Realms work the same way ally abilities worked in Star Realms, and abjuring a card is the same as scrapping it.
An abjure ability appears at the bottom of the ability symbol. Remember that you don't have to activate abilities if you don't want to. Try not to forget. As you can see, this card is yellow, and this symbol indicates that this is an artifact. Artifacts are discarded from play at the end of your turn. This card generates 2 sanity loss and also heals 4 sanity for you. Note that this card requires 2 prerequisites. You have to have another purple card in play, and you have to have abjured a card this turn. If you meet both of these conditions, you may draw 1 card.
Slightly different than Star Realms formula. In Cthulhu Realms, you can have different types of prerequisites, and you have to have, in this case, both of them to draw 1 card. In Star Realms, it would just be 1 ally ability to draw a card.
This card is purple, and this symbol indicates this is an entity. Entities are discarded from play at the end of your turn. This card allows you to destroy a location and abjure a card. To destroy a location, simply choose an opponent's location in play to destroy. Abjuring a card removes it from the game. You may abjure a card from your hand, discard pile, or from the center row.
A nice wrinkle to the scrapping from Star Realms, you can abjure cards from the center row in Cthulhu Realms.
Abjuring weaker cards from your deck, such as goons and followers, makes your deck stronger. If you abjure a card from the center row, it is replaced by the top card of the general deck. You cannot abjure a card that costs more than 6 conjuring. This ability has 2 prerequisites. You must have a green card in play, and a player must have discarded a card this turn. It doesn't matter which player discarded, as long as somebody did. This card is a location. Locations stay in play after your turn ends. Locations can be destroyed by sanity loss, which must be applied all at once. The number here indicates how much sanity loss is required to destroy this location.
Locations work the same way as bases do in Star Realms. They stay out the whole game. Some of them must be attacked first. Some of them you can bypass and deal sanity loss directly to your opponent if you don't care about destroying the location.
How are buildings destroyed by sanity loss? You're right, that does sound crazy.
That does sound crazy. Nice bit of humor to throw in here. It doesn't thematically make sense to destroy a building with sanity, and I like that they called it out in the rules.
Anyway, this particular location requires 4 sanity loss to be destroyed. This location is also a sanctuary. A player cannot be damaged if they have a sanctuary in play. This location is just a location. Your opponent can choose to destroy it, but they don't have to. This card also has a double ability. You can choose to gain 2 sanity or gain 2 conjuring power. You can't choose both. This location is a nexus. If a player has a nexus in play, their opponent can't destroy a non-nexus location with sanity loss. A nexus doesn't protect players, just locations.
So this is new. It's like a super location. As the tutorial states, you have to defeat nexuses before you can defeat other locations. So they do pair nicely with sanctuaries. You can have a nexus out and a sanctuary out. You can't destroy the sanctuary with sanity loss. You have to destroy the nexus first, and then the sanctuary, and then deal sanity loss to the player. So it's, in effect, a super sanctuary.
Let's take a look at the rest of the abilities. This ability lets you draw 1 card, then discard 1 card. This will let you fulfill any discard prerequisites. This ability is very rare and powerful. It allows you to acquire a card that you abjured this turn without paying the conjuring cost and put it on top of your deck. That's all for part 1 of the tutorial. In part 2, you'll play some Cthulhu Realms.
Cthulhu Realms is a little more in-depth than Star Realms, but they both run on the same basic premise of a deck builder. You're dealing damage in the form of sanity loss to your opponent, and you're acquiring cards with conjuring power and adding them to your deck. You want to abjure weaker cards to trim down your deck so you can cycle through it more efficiently, get the more powerful cards quicker. And as you can see, there's some interesting combos that aren't present in Star Realms with how you can abjure cards and get cards that you have abjured this turn with that 1 card, the Dean. So you can set up a nice turn in Cthulhu Realms and do different things that you could not do in Star Realms. So it's a little more advanced.
Welcome to Cthulhu Realms. Here you'll play an actual game, guided by a weird voice in your head. Me! Try not to think about it too much. Just obey without question. Notice that you have Miskatonic Hospital already in play. You played it last turn, and your opponent didn't destroy it. How nice of them. First, play the Pnakotic Fragment from your hand. You do this by dragging the card from your hand to the in-play area. Because you already have a yellow card in play, you've met the prerequisite for Pnakotic Fragment, and you can activate the ability. Do this by clicking on the fragment. Now, click on the +1, -1 ability in the box at the bottom of the screen. You draw a card, and you must now discard a card. Click on Follower to discard it. Since you discarded a card this turn, you can activate the ability of the ruins. Go ahead, do it. You can now abjure a card. Abjure the follower from your discard pile. Select the discard pile and then select the follower. Now play Yithian. Because you have a green card in play, Yithian's ability is available. Activate it. You can abjure a card from your hand, discard pile, or the center row. Choose City of Pnakotis from the center row. Remember, you can't abjure anything that costs 7 or more. Now play the younger Watley brother from your hand. Activate the bottom ability. This allows you to acquire a card you abjured this turn. Now, choose City of Pnakotis. This ability puts the abjured card on top of your deck. Next turn, you'll draw the City of Pnakotis. Now play the Kingsport Harbor from your hand. Click on the card to zoom in. You can use the ability since you abjured a card this turn. This ability requires you to choose whether you want 3 conjuring power or 5 sanity. Choose the 3 conjuring power. Choose the 3 conjuring power. Now you have 5 conjuring for the turn. Acquire the orillia from the center row. Now you've generated 14 sanity loss. Time to attack your opponent. Your opponent has Watley Farm in play, which is a sanctuary. Sanctuaries protect players. You'll have to destroy it. Click on Watley Farm. See the large attack button? Go ahead and click on that button. Attacking the Watley Farm took 5 sanity loss. You have 9 left. Now attack your opponent. Drag a line from your avatar to your opponent's avatar to attack them. You're done for the turn. Click on the End Turn button. Now it's your turn again, but I have to leave. I like to chatter insanely in the minds of your local politicians, driving them to the brink of madness. You should be fine here. Think you can win?
As you can see, Cthulhu Realms has a little more going on than Star Realms. The sequencing is very important, how you do things and when you do things, which abilities you activate first, the abjure a card and then claim an abjured card power is very powerful. You definitely want to plan that out in advance. Other than that, it's very similar to Star Realms. It's the same deck builder format. You're buying cards that are powerful. You want to try to get rid of cards that are weak from your hand and your deck so you can cycle through your deck quicker. You want to go for sanity loss cards to damage your opponent and their sanctuaries. You want to get conjuring cards to buy better cards for future turns. And there's just that extra wrinkle of more planning and more thoughtful execution of how you play your cards. The sequencing is very important. That's Cthulhu Realms. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching the tutorial. I think they did an excellent job on this tutorial. It's very funny. It's very slick. It teaches you how to play very well. It goes over some of the nuances that you may miss if you're reading a rule book. And I think the voice being crazy and kind of, that little banter is very humorous. Don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. You can find Cheese Viking Games all over the web at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, and cheesevikinggames.com.